Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about Fidelity and the top 6 mutual funds you can invest with at Fidelity. Fidelity is my favorite brokerage. A lot of people like Vanguard as well. Vanguard is very good, but you can also invest in any Vanguard fund through Fidelity. So if you're trying to pick a brokerage and you can't decide between Fidelity and Vanguard, I would go with Fidelity just because you can buy any of those mutual funds ETFs that Vanguard offers. And you can't say the same thing about Vanguard. If you have a Vanguard account, you can't buy Fidelity funds. And the Fidelity funds do have slightly lower management fees. That's why I chose them. I'll do a video of Fidelity versus Vanguard, top 3 reasons why you should choose Fidelity. So if you want to check out that video, make sure to subscribe. But for simple advice right now, just open a Fidelity account. First fund we'll talk about is this Fidelity Total Market Index Fund. Here's a brief overview of it. Go to the next slide here. This is the FSKAX right over here. That's the ticker symbol for it. This is basically a Dow Jones Industrial mutual fund and mirrors the Dow Jones Industrial. It's got about 20% bonds in this fund, 80% stocks. And there's 3,888 stocks with different market caps in here. You have about the same risk as if you just, and basically it mirrors the Dow Jones Industrial. So here you got the top holdings over in this little graphic here. Microsoft being number 1, Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, Alphabet, Tesla's in there. The expense ratio 0.015. For reference, Vanguard has very low expense ratios. Theirs is 0.03. So this one, their expense ratio is over double, even though they're both extremely low. Past 10-year return, 11.97%. So you're spending about $1.5 for every $10,000 you invest in this fund on management, on the expense ratio. A $10,000 investment over 10 years will be $32,778, whereas a 15-year investment, another 5 years, $64,276. The alpha for this fund, you'll hear me talk about that. That's the investment return relative to the market, or the S&P 500 is what we compare the alpha to. A 0 means it's exactly the same as the S&P 500. This was a little bit less at 2.02. That's because it has a little bit of bonds in there, a little bit more diversification. It's not going to be a little bit less volatile than the S&P 500. Beta is 1, which means you have about the same overall volatility and risk associated with it. So great fund, FSKX. Staple of a lot of people's portfolios is a total market index fund. I would say, make this somewhere between 10-20% of your total portfolio. Next one we're going to talk about is FXAIX, the Fidelity 500 Index Fund. This fund performs a little bit better than that total market index fund, has slightly more volatility. Year to date, it's doing 19%. I took that picture today, July of 2024. Overview of it. Again, you're mirroring the S&P 500. You have that really low Fidelity expense ratio, 0.015%. 12.64% over the last 10 years, a little bit better. If we go back, that total market index was at 11.9. This one's doing 0.6% more. Another fund that you can make the staple of your portfolio. Put another, you already got 10-20% in that other one. 20-30% into this. At 10 years, you're at $34,000 with a $10,000 investment. At 15 years, you're at $72,000. Great fund here. Again, grow financials, healthcare, consumer discretionary companies are what make up the top 500 companies in this S&P index fund. 99% U.S. stocks, 0.6% Europe. Again, mainly U.S. companies which traditionally outperform your international counterparts. The alpha, negative 0.01. Again, a 0 alpha mirrors the market. Anything over 0 does better than it. Beta of 1, you're mirroring the S&P 500 over 10 years. Number 4, we got the Fidelity Growth and Income Portfolio Fund. This is like a dividend fund that also has growth associated with it. You get a 3.69 dividend yield, 10-year dividend growth rate of 16.9%. and the past 10-year return giving you about 10.9%. Here you get investment. If you invest $10,000 up to $36,000 at 10 years, $106,000 at 15 years. That's with all those dividends kind of paying out and growing over time. You get that kind of bigger back end on this fund. The beta is 0.89. Get a little bit more volatile. And this one, we don't have enough data yet. I think it's a newer fund for the alpha to be calculated. A little bit of diversification here. You get 11.25% in foreign countries, 85% in the domestic market. Next fund we'll talk about, the Fidelity Growth and Income Portfolio. That was the one we were just talking about there. Here's the overview of it. Again, you get this expense ratio now is 0.55%. It goes up. It's a little bit more actively managed. A little bit higher turnover rate. But again, you're given those dividend payouts that you can then reinvest. The third fund is the Fidelity MSCI Information Technology Index, FTech. Past year, 10 years, this is a really high return here. 19%, the expense ratio of 0.084. Still fairly low, actively managed fund. That's why you're getting that higher return rate. The 10-year investment of $10,000 gets you $58,000. 15 years, $173,000. Still have a very low beta for a pretty impressive return of 19.43%. That alpha essentially mirroring this index. Again, you get a lot of technology in this fund, just like you are with a lot of the funds here. Microsoft, Apple, NVIDIA. But then the rest of the fund just has a higher amount of technology companies in it. Large, mid, small cap companies. 40% about software companies, 25% semiconductor, 20% hardware. This is another great fund. Get 5, 10, 15% of your portfolio into this. It can help boost up the returns in your portfolio from besides just having a total market or an S&P 500 fund. Here's the overall view of it. It was a little bit hard to get this all on one slide. But again, key is you still have fairly low risk with good returns. Number 2 fund, we'll talk about the Fidelity Large Cap Growth Index Fund. This is looking at tries to mirror the Russell 1000 index. Just those large companies. They have to be $10 billion or more companies to get into this fund. You get a pretty good 5-year growth rate. This is a newer fund, 18.74% per year, and the expense ratio of 0.035, very low. Basically almost the same as those Vanguard expense ratios that everyone talks about. And if you invest $10,000 in this at year 10, $49,328. If you go extrapolate that out, you get to $119,714. This is, definitely a good fund. At least get, a small percentage. Add some diversification to your portfolio. Put 5% into this. Take advantage of those large cap funds. Give yourself some more diversification in your portfolio. Here's an overall look at it. Again, low expense ratio. A little bit higher on the risk side. Still gets 5-star rating. Very good returns. Definitely a good fund to look into. Our number 1 fund, this is a great Fidelity fund, the Fidelity Select Semiconductor Portfolio Fund. Again, AI technology. Those are very hot things that are going to be big over the next 10, 20, 30 years. NVIDIA is very heavy in this fund. Marvell, a couple Asian company, TSMC, ASML, also big. Here's the top holdings in this fund. NVIDIA makes up almost 30%, 27%. Next one being 7%. Marvell is 7%. The Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company at TSMC, 5.45%. Again, lots of technology. Definitely want to not a bad thing to have 5-10% of your portfolio in this if you're just trying to make it based on mutual funds. This one had a 10-year return of 26.9%. The beta, 1.69, a little bit riskier. Expense ratio of 0.68, actively managed fund. That's why you get that higher return rate. Again, you're going to have more, that 1.6 beta. You're going to have some more volatility. You have to deal with, how these this kind of circular demand for semiconductors, smart chips, those kind of things. As it increases, it gets tighter, prices go up, new things are built, then you have overcapacity, the price drops, the demand, then you have kind of the circular motion here. But again, a 10-year investment of $10,000, $89,000 return. That 15-year gets you up to $302,000 with this, because you're going to have those big years where you get that 26 point, closer to that 26.9%, but you're going to have a good amount of volatility. So be ready for that. Again, something you can add to your portfolio to increase returns. You don't have to have it all into just this. You do want to have some things in there to level out the volatility that goes along with semiconductor mutual funds, or these heavily tech invested mutual funds. Not a bad one to have in 2024. That's all I got. I appreciate you guys watching. Another overview of that fund. If you guys like this kind of content, investment information, investment advice, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We do a lot of just general finance advice on this channel, talking about different kind of credit cards you can get, different kind of bank accounts, different kind of retirement funds, different kind of investments. Again, I really like Fidelity as an investment platform. I love the website. I love their mutual funds. I love their low expense ratios. These are my top 6 funds that I think you should invest in. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to subscribe, like the video. I'll catch y'all next time.